Well, we do configuration management on the SAP system, yes. And back when they had an AS400, basically the same thing. There would be, how do you write code, so to speak, on the AS400 environment, and to create an application within that environment. But no, we don't typically write application software.
The reason I ask is, in my asset as an owner, we are about to purchase a program for asset life. So my question is, we have people who write code in SAP. Will our people not be able to write the code for this new asset program?
The program that I think that you're talking about is nothing more than an application that would track assets. It would have to integrate into the SAP system because ultimately, all assets are a financial entity. So how does that come back into the SAP environment? Our staff would be responsible for making sure that that software, which would be purchased, was purchased correctly, installed correctly, and we would provide the support on both the application side and on the hardware infrastructure side. So if there was a server that needed to be installed, we would house that in the data center and provide backup services and recovery services for it. From the application side, again, we wouldn't own the application, but we would provide creating the interface between that application and the SAP environment.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Bill, is this coming out of rates? I just see it on page E13, or is it this in the COP plan?
No, this is not in the COP plan. This is part of the operating expenses within the water department.
So it's not in our COP capital?
No.
It says capital budget, just references lines, and I don't have those here.
Well, in the estimate that was included, she was looking at some additional hardware, but that was not included in this contract.
Okay, you'll be bringing us back to it then?
Yes.
Okay. Item 12, review major work authorization covering the replacement of SAP servers.
Might as well stay there.
Oh, no, I'm not doing this one. I'll be introducing Frank Hernandez, who is responsible for the operation of our data center, and he will be presenting.
Maybe ask him why he can't do that.
He's got a good answer. He doesn't do software, he does hardware.
Thanks for the introduction. Mr. President, directors of the board, management, and the remaining public tonight. Here, we're going to be waiting for a decision next meeting, hopefully. Major work authorization to replace the current infrastructure for the SAP servers. The existing servers are an aging environment, reach their capacity without replacement. We essentially can't add any more horsepower to them. We have initiatives coming, more business needs for the SAP environment, and it's going to be a challenge to keep up with those. And we're reaching a point where we won't be able to satisfy the requirements for performance.
Great. It's a great book you're doing, right? And I guess, Mike, at our meeting in the asset, I believe it was, I can't remember what was her name, she was in here, but she said that one of the reasons that SAP couldn't do what we talked about in our meetings is because we haven't upgraded it yet. My notes with me. So I guess my question would be, with this upgrade, can we now configure that program into the SAP?
This is just the servers. What we're engineering here is a server platform that we can put the current application on, and if the board so decides to approve an MW in the future for an upgrade of SAP, this architecture will also satisfy that this is not the application upgrade, this is merely the hardware infrastructure.
I got answers. Are we doing any archiving?
Not at the moment.
We were going to do that some time ago, that they hired, one of our employees got promoted, and they were going to be doing digital or whatever, archiving all their documents. We're not doing that?
Document management is archiving other legal documents and things, but out of the SAP environment, to my knowledge, right now, we are not archiving any of the database out to a separate system.
No, there's a team looking at it. There is a team that's looking at archiving, and part of the activity there is working with Jeff and the legal department to identify what are the legal requirements for retention of information. And so they're working to, identify all the different types of information that the district has, and then go through a process by which they identify what is the retention requirements for those pieces
So
of information.
have we done any archiving at all?
No. And the good news is, that means we have all our information right on site and available for access at any time.
This was brought before the board at least 2 years ago. They were going to do this. There was a presentation before the board at that time. We're going to start digitally archiving all these documents.
Oh, and we do have we have a FileNet system, which is a separate environment.
Okay, that's
that's
what
not
I was
included.
asking.
Although FileNet is in some of this hardware that we're talking about. But Denise Bohannes' group,
that's her name.
in document services, yes, they archive a significant amount of documents.
Okay.
And in fact, one of the requirements, well, Mr. Kelly's left, but one of the requirements that they had to accomplish was archiving all the information in the real estate office before they could move down to the Valley Plaza office.
So they've done. So that is
They've done a
problem.
significant amount. Most of our energy department engineering information is housed in the FileNet system, and we do have another project in place now to incorporate a more enterprise perspective to archiving or storing of files of information, and also looking at workflow management instead of hand delivering papers through the district.
And you have a backup system in case something crashes, you have the documentation saved?
We have a process where we back up the systems on a regular basis and we store that data off-site. Yes.
Okay.
Well, off-site from the data center, but it is still physically on-site. We store it at the water control center.
Mr. Campbell, just make sure that whatever happens, that Stella makes it into the history books, the IID, okay? On Irrigation.
So they're going to black out my name. Yeah,
We'll name the data center after her.
Mr. Campbell, my question would be, without the archive, does that have a critical impact on the capacity of not doing that?
I'm going to defer to my technical sources.
Archiving does have the potential to improve capacity on performance at the CPU level, memory usage, where you're going to see the majority of your savings is on storage. You can move primary data onto faster disks, which are usually more expensive. And the things that you don't read from very often, you can move out to secondary storage, which can prove to be a significant cost savings on large databases such as SAP. Performance-wise, it's not going to matter as much where the data is coming from, but the types of calculations that you're doing. And we're seeing more larger calculations, more applications being put on these servers, and that's the capacity that I'm asking for, that we look at for next week. Hopefully we get this approved.
So this new servers or the improvement of these servers, what is the time life that these have? These will be, when are you going to come back to this board and ask for additional servers or replacement servers?
We expect to come back 5 to 6 years on these, and that's our life cycle on the mid-range servers. 5 to 6 years ago, we came to you in 2003 to approve the current infrastructure, and they've reached the end of their leases, end of their life,
Okay.
and so we're at the end of that life cycle, needing to go into a new one.
Okay, bring it back to us.
Thank you.